Hello, everybody. Welcome to Freestyle Talkz. My name is Carlos. I'm your host from Maputo in Mozambique, in Africa. Welcome to this very special edition. I know it's been a while since we've been doing this episodes. So I think our last episode was actually on February this year. I've been quite absent this year. I really apologize. I'm doing a lot of stuff. So I'm trying to manage my time as the best way I can. But we are always looking for great guests. And when we have an exceptional guest available and open to join us and have an exciting talk, I'm always here. So this is one of those occasions. So we have an amazing opportunity. We were here on Thursday, if you might recall, uh, and it wasn't working. So we failed to make this live on Thursday, and I apologize once again. But we are very excited because it's finally happening. So we are on the NBA playoff season. It's for those who follow NBA, it's the time to really catch up and follow all the games, exciting moments, the best players. And we have here one of the most rising stars, I think, in the NBA broadcasting world. I started following his platform, I think, a couple of years ago, AM Hoops. I've been following ever since. I'm a subscriber. I was checking this channel from before it was 100,000 subscribers, and he was pushing to reach that number. It's finally there, and we are going to 200,000 now. I say we because I'm also a member. Like, I feel a part of this family, so I'm really excited to watch this platform growing. And he's very inspirational because he's doing things in a different way. His point of view is a way, his approach to broadcasting and to analyzing NBA, I think, is quite unique. And I will invite you all to check his channel. But we will dig into NBA playoffs, off season, his YouTube channel. But for now, I'm really excited to bring our guest, Casey Keirnan, to join me. Casey, welcome to Freestyle Talkz.
Thanks, Carlos. That was a really nice intro, man. I appreciate it.
No, really. I'm really thankful for you being here and making yourself available to join me. We are in Mozambique, as I was telling you, so it's a country you probably don't even know about us. In the bottom of Africa, poor country. So it really means a lot to have you here with us to discuss your work, discuss NBA. So I'm really excited to make this happen.
Thanks, man. Do you guys get NBA games on TV out there, or do you have to go through the internet?
So we have a TV cable company.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we get some games in the sport channels, but this is not for the average people. It's a subscribing platform, so it's quite expensive. I think it's like $50 a month or so. And in Mozambique, that's a lot of money.
Of course.
It's almost a minimum salary in Mozambique, so it's quite expensive. So not everybody gets to watch that. But I'm also on the NBA League Pass, so I can subscribe that and watch all the games I want through the internet.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, but another challenge is our time lapse, because we are 7 hours ahead of you. So your games are broadcasted at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in Mozambique. So it's only for real fans.
Right. Yeah. So the latest game out here would start at 5 a.m. for you. And that reminds me of my soccer days when I used to be obsessed with English football. And I would get up because I lived on the West Coast of the United States back then, which is even, further back than where I am now. And so I would wake up at 5, 6 a.m. when I could just record it and watch it. There was just something about watching it live, but I have some really good memories.
The same thing.
Yeah.
It's different. It totally is. So these games, like tomorrow's games, are actually early in Mozambique because they will be around noon US in the morning, the late morning, start of the afternoon. So those are going live on a decent time, but from Monday onwards, it will be late evenings. So I'm in my zombie mode.
Yeah. I don't mind watching stuff the day after. I have, especially during the regular season, I have so many games to watch that I use something on League Pass called condensed games. So what they do is they take the whole game and they take out all of the pauses. So if there's ever a replay review, if there's ever a timeout, if there's ever, just any stoppage of the play, they take them all out. And so you can get an entire 2-hour game in 35 minutes. It's fantastic. And you really don't miss anything. So I watch, it's called condensed games, all possessions. And so I don't mind watching stuff the day after myself.
Okay, I'm going to check that.
Yeah, man.
Maybe I have it on the platform and I don't even know. Yeah.
It's so useful, but it's only on NBA League Pass. So.
Okay, cool. So I'll check on that. So let me also greet our audience. And if you want to jump in, send us your messages on the text, on the chat box, and we will be very happy to engage. And you are always a part of the conversations on Freestyle Talkz. So Casey, just also to let you know, so Freestyle Talkz started 2 years ago in 2020 or so, amid COVID, right in the middle of COVID. So I started this channel because I wanted to use the opportunities I have to reach people from different parts of the world. And one, to show my fellow Mozambicans and Africans overall, other people and other cultures and stories, and inspire us with different backgrounds and experiences, but also to show to different audiences that Africa is much more than poverty and wars and diseases, as you often see on the news. So that's why we say it is a platform, a bridge of inspiration between Africa and the world. So that's our mission. We have been engaging with people from over a dozen countries in the world. So we've been having guests who speak Portuguese, who speak English, who speak Spanish, so different continents and countries, and different backgrounds. So from musicians, entrepreneurs, so athletes, broadcasters, as yourself. So we don't have one specific type of guests of profiles. I really invite people I admire and I feel my audience can relate and learn something from. So welcome as a part of our family at Freestyle Talkz.
Thanks, man. And that's honestly why I said, of course, I would do this right when you messaged me. It was because I checked out your page and I saw you were doing that bridge between Africa and the rest of the world. I mean, to me, that's just so awesome. And I mean, I'm flattered that you would find part of my story inspirational, but I'll do my best. Thank you, though, for having me on.
Let's do this. So we are now on the semifinals in the NBA playoffs. So everything is decided. So actually, the delay from Thursday to Saturday gave us time to have a full bracket. So we now have the games aligned. So on the Eastern Conference, we have the Bucks going against Celtics and Heat against 76ers. Western Conference, Warriors and Memphis, and Suns and Mavs, right?
Yeah.
So I want to pick your brains and catch up with you. How do you see these next games, and who is doing better? Who do you see going out? So let's maybe take it one game at a time and analyze it and break it down, if you don't mind. So let's start by the champs, Milwaukee Bucks against Celtics. How do you see this matchup?
Well, it's a big deal that Chris Middleton is out. He has an MCL injury, and he might be out the entire round here against the Celtics. The Celtics obviously just swept the Brooklyn Nets, and their defense was so impressive. They had two things that really stood out to you in that sweep against the Brooklyn Nets and Kevin Durant. One was their defense, team defense, and number two was Jason Tatum being that two-way superstar and taking yet another jump from how good he already was. And so now we look at the Bucks and we say, man, so you've got Giannis as their best player. Their second best player won't be there. So after that, you've got Drew Holiday and then a collection of role players like Pat Connaughton, Grayson Allen, Bobby Portis. And obviously, you would say that the Boston Celtics, having just swept the Nets and with Tatum, who's just taken yet another leap, they are going to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. They'll be able to shut down Giannis with that defense that we saw, and then just hope that those role players like a Holiday, a Connaughton, a Grayson Allen can win the series for them, which you'd say, well, that's not going to happen, right? But let's say it did happen. Let's say Giannis, Carlos, was able to get through these Celtics that just did all of that, make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, get Chris Middleton back, and maybe even go on and win another title. That would be so, I mean, Giannis would skyrocket to another level of superstardom and of, you know, his place in the all-time greats. He really would, because he will have combined his 2 MVPs and his Defensive Player of the Year with back-to-back champions in a really difficult road to get there. Everyone would be, 100% respect to Giannis if he was able to pull this off. And so to me, the more interesting thing about this series is not necessarily breaking down the matchup, because I think the Celtics clearly have the advantage. To me, the more interesting thing is, what would this mean for Giannis if he was actually able to win this? And it just would be so huge. Would he be top 10 all time? Would he knock out Shaq from the top 10? Would he knock out Wilt? One of these things. And so I'm just really interested, if they can put up a fight, what ends up happening.
Cool. So I want to talk to you about the all-time top 10 NBA lists later. So I'm going to save that part to discuss later with you. So let's move to Miami Heat and 76ers. How do you see this series?
So Joel Embiid, and by the way, we've talked about two people with African roots. Obviously, Giannis, his parents are from Ghana before he immigrated to Greece. And then now we're talking about Embiid, who I believe is from Cameroon. Embiid broke a bone in his face 2 nights ago, and he had a mild concussion. And so obviously that just kills their chances against the number 1 seed Miami Heat. I was picking the Heat to win anyway, but now without Embiid, I really give the Sixers no chance. There's a lot we could talk about here, but the injury to Embiid, the typical time missed is 10 games, which is well beyond this round. The good news is that it looked like both of his eyes were able to move simultaneously, which meant that there wasn't a muscle in there that was injured. It's really just that bone in his face. And, he did come back from the same injury with a mask on. Everyone will remember Embiid with the mask on, but that took him 3 weeks to get back. He doesn't have 3 weeks now. This Miami Heat series starts on Tuesday, and could be a quick series.
So don't you? James Harden is not any source of hope, right, for the 76ers at this point.
No, other than Game 6 against the Raptors, James Harden hasn't looked like himself, and he's got a history of collapsing in the playoffs. I pretty much give them zero chance.
Okay, so Eastern Conference Finals would be Bucks, Miami Heat.
Celtics.
How do you see that?
I would say it would be
Celtics. Yeah, Celtics.
At this point, you got to be backing the Celtics here. Really an elite defense. Their role players are playing great. Al Horford, Grant Williams, and Robert Williams, and obviously Marcus Smart. But I think the thing that separates the Celtics and the Heat, they both have great cultures, great head coaches, great defenses. The thing that separates the Celtics for me is their half-court offense, because they have a guy like Jason Tatum who can get that bucket when it's just, last possession of a big game. The offenses have grinded to a halt, and you can give it to Tatum, and I really believe in him. That's what we saw in the series against the Nets. Now, for the Heat, their best crunch time player has been Tyler Hero, who is like a 6 man of the year type guy. It's not Jimmy Butler. He's not as consistent in the clutch, really just final bucket that you got to get in a big close game. Jimmy Butler isn't that guy. Kyle Lowry has been that guy. He's done it before, but he hasn't been that guy this season. So it's got to be Tyler Hero. And if you're picking between Hero and Jason Tatum and the Celtics, I am picking the Celtics.
Yeah, that's an easy choice.
Yeah.
So, Western Conference, Warriors and young Memphis Grizzlies.
Right, yeah, the Grizzlies, man, they were shaky. I don't know how much of that series you caught against the Timberwolves, dude. I mean, I forget what the stat was, but something like well over 2/3 of the minutes that were played, the Timberwolves were leading in that series, but they ended up losing like almost every single. It went to 6, but they ended up losing those leads almost every time because they're a young team, they're an erratic team. But by the same token, Memphis just did not look great for most of the game. Now they were able to come back, but I think they were able to come back from those deficits because they were playing a young, undisciplined, inexperienced Timberwolves team. That ain't going to be the same in this series. Obviously, the Golden State Warriors have as much, built-in chemistry and experience as you can get. So, look, the Warriors are rolling. I know that they lost one game against the Nuggets in Denver, but I think, to me, this is a pretty easy Warriors pick.
Cool. Suns, Memphis.
Well, let's see. This is the number 1 seed against the number 4 seed. And for the first time in 3 tries, Luka Doncic has gotten out of the first round. It was so great for them that they were able to go and take 2 games against the Jazz before Luka came back. And then once Luka came back, they were able to wrap up the series in 6. But look, the Suns are just super deep. They have, an elite player in Devin Booker in his prime. They've got a guy in his late prime in Chris Paul. They've got a defensive player of the year type guy, Mikal Bridges, a 6 man of the year type guy in Cam Johnson. And the Mavs have Luka, who is, to me, the best player in the series. But right after that, their depth drops off big time. So if we were to pick the best players in the series, I would look. Are you familiar with both of these rosters at all, Carlos?
I am.
All right, so let's do a draft. Let's pretend all of these players are out there on a playground, and let's draft them. So first overall pick, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to pick Luka. Who are you going to pick?
I'm picking first or second now?
Second. So I just picked Luka.
Okay.
I just picked Luka first. Who are you going to pick?
Okay, it's between Booker and CP3, so I'm gonna pick Booker because he's
Booker.
Younger.
Okay, I'll pick Chris Paul. Who are you gonna pick next?
Yeah, now it's difficult now, but I think I'm going with Ayton.
You're going Ayton. That's a really good pick. I'm gonna go with Mikal Bridges.
Jay Crowder.
Jay Crowder. Really? Jay Crowder. That's great.
Well, yeah, it's all Suns.
So here's my point, is that Luka may be the best player in the series, but you and I just went back and forth for 6 different players. 1 was a Mav, 5 were on the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it right there. They just have the talent, top-end talent, depth, everything. This is Suns.
If Booker wasn't back, I think it would be a very balanced series. Just Luka against Chris Paul.
Yeah.
But having Booker back, I think it shifts all the way. It's not balanced anymore.
I agree.
So I have a couple of questions that are coming here from our audience. So Alex is asking you about this Ja Morant hype. If you think is justified, overrated, is it a true superstar in the making?
Yeah, I think it totally is. I think all of the hype is warranted. I think not only does he have an awesome game that's improving in terms of his ability to stretch the floor and his defense. He's always had the driving, but these last couple of years, he's been able to expand on his game. But also, I just love his killer mentality. This is a dude who reminds me of, that kind of Michael Jordan, LeBron type mentality where he loves the game of basketball. Not just he loves being a star, wearing sunglasses, on the bench when he's not playing type guy. This is a guy who lives and breathes basketball and would do anything to win a game, and I just love that kind of mentality. Is the kind of guy that I would want on my team. And so I think when he has the personality and the mindset combined with this talent that we're seeing, I think all the hype is justified.
Cool. Lam is saying hi, and she's speaking Suns.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, Lam.
And saying that
Chris Paul and Booker are the best, huh?
And Booker are the best. Yeah.
So Celtics Suns in the finals. Are you still going? Luka is alone. I don't know about that. Lamb, Jalen Brunson. Have you seen Jalen Brunson in the playoffs? He has been unbelievable. But Lamb, I wonder if you still pick Suns if we're talking Celtics Suns, or maybe you need to see more from the Celtics. I don't know, but I think I would lean. Man, that's so tough.
So you are picking Suns over Warriors in the Western Finals, right? Yeah. So you are jumping into Celtics. Okay. Why is that?
Yeah. Why would I pick the Suns over the Warriors? That's a really tough one. I think it would go to 7, and I wouldn't be mad at you if you picked the Warriors. I would
just a feeling.
Sorry?
It's just a feeling and intuition, right?
No, I think it usually starts with that. I think that, just so much has changed since the playoffs started with how good Steph looks and how good Jordan Poole looks. Gosh, you know what? Now that we're sitting here and I don't feel that same conviction, I think you're right, Carlos. I might want to change my pick. Because by the way, like before the playoffs started, Carlos, I picked Suns over Warriors. And so just now in our conversation, I instinctively said that. But then when I tried to defend it, I remembered the reason I picked Suns was because we weren't sure about Steph's health. I wasn't sure about Jordan Poole in his first playoffs. But a lot of those questions have been answered. So it's like, am I going to change my pick? I think I might. Yeah. That's crazy.
So finals, Suns or Warriors against Celtics?
Warriors, Celtics.
What do you see? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so tough. You got they're two great defenses. The best player on the court is Steph Curry. Boy, I would just say Warriors based on experience. They've been there. Steph, Clay, and Draymond. Clay has looked better and better. And by the way, the Celtics have been to the Eastern Conference Finals like 4 times in the last 6 years or whatever. So I'm not saying that they don't have playoff experience, but in the finals, it may feel a little different for those young guys, But the Warriors will be like, I'm back home. Thank you. Thank goodness. So they
have a rookie coach. Celtics have a rookie coach.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
so I mean, just based on the experience, but dude, they're both really talented. I love the way Jason Tatum has played, and Jaylen Brown, and Grant Williams hitting threes, and Robert Williams being healthy. It's a big, and that's the other thing. I'd love to see that matchup between Robert Williams and Draymond / Kevon Looney. I'd love to see Marcus Smart chasing Steph around. It would be such a fun series if we got that. But just based on they're pretty even, but then you just got to give the edge to the Warriors based on all that finals experience.
If you had to predict one shocker in any of these 4 series, who do you see as that
Dallas
one team
Mavericks.
who has a chance? Dallas Mavericks. I completely agree. Luka Doncic has that potential, right?
Totally, man. I forget what the stat was about Slovenia in the Olympics. It may have been, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, they've never qualified. And then all of a sudden, Luka comes of age and he's in the Slovenian national team. And not only do they make it to the Olympics, I think they made it to the knockout round, right? They made it to the 3rd place game, I believe. So that is the level. That is the level that he can raise a roster, right? And he could do that for his country in the Olympics. Maybe he can do that against the Suns.
Yeah, and he's very unique. He's so big, and he plays at his own pace. So it's very difficult to rush him. So he's always a very difficult player to control.
I will say though, Carlos, I don't know how much you watched that game 6 against Utah, but the one thing that worried me about Luka was like he was settling for a lot of step back threes. And then when we didn't have Luka for the first 2 or 3 games, there was so much ball movement. And any guy on the Mavs could hit a shot. It was Maxi Kleber, it was Jalen Brunson, it was whatever, Spencer Dinwiddie, right? But then I feel like late in games when Luka is healthy, it becomes too much of the Luka show and ISO ball. And we like that sometimes, but I just worry about that because sometimes that can just fall on its face. And he was just settling for too many step back threes. The ball wasn't moving. I just hope that he sees the value of getting all of his teammates involved.
And the other thing I'm always afraid regarding Luka is his temper. I think he still needs to calm down and settle down. He's very emotional, I feel. Always arguing with the refs.
Yeah, but I don't think we've seen that so much in the playoffs. I mean, to me, that's a big regular season thing. And I think that refs would be less likely to whistle him for a tech because do you really want to, if you're a ref, do you really want to do that? And either because it's 2 techs and you get ejected. So do you really want to, put a guy in that situation in a huge game? I don't know.
Cool. So let's move now to have a break from this NBA season, and let's talk about the offseason. So these stories, so we have the Nets and the Lakers who had really disappointed seasons. What do you expect from both these franchises? We were expecting so much and failed in a huge way from different reasons, of course. How do you see the offseason, the Russell Westbrook drama, contract? Is he staying, leaving? The Ben Simmons drama? How do you see Lakers offseason, Nets offseason?
So the first thing for the Lakers is they have to get a new head coach. And there's a rumor out there saying that they would want to hire Quinn Snyder, even though it's so funny, all these rumors are coming out. Quinn Snyder is still employed by the Utah Jazz. The rumors are acting like he's not. But, I mean, honestly, for me, if they were able to get Quinn Snyder, it would be a home run. Not saying that Quinn Snyder wouldn't take the heat if they lost, because he would. But I think he's the best possible coach available. I didn't think that LeBron would go for that because I think Quinn Snyder will take control of that offense, and he will call the shots. He will draw up the plays. He will really put his personality on that team. And I thought, well, LeBron kind of wants more of a yes man, somebody who will just kind of, let him call the shots. But no, if he's willing to put Quinn Snyder in there, that shows me a lot about LeBron's commitment to winning. I think that they will get the Russell Westbrook trade done. A lot of people talk like it's an impossible thing to move him. It's just not true. They have Kendrick Nunn under contract. They have THT under contract they could trade. They had 2 first-round picks that they could put in there. The only question is, do they try to get, who do they get to take that offer? And, we could talk about various players that they could go after. Jeremy Grant comes to mind. Miles Turner comes to mind. Who are some of the other big names? But I do think that the Westbrook deal gets done. For the Nets side of things, I think it's going to look mostly the same. Kyrie will return on a long-term contract. Ben Simmons will obviously return. He's under contract for 3 more years. And they're going to run it back, hoping that Ben makes a big difference. And, some of their free agents are Nick Claxton, Andre Drummond, Bruce Brown as a free agent. And so I'm missing somebody. But, they would like to retain Bruce Brown and Nick Claxton. I think those are the only 2 guys they have to retain. Patty Mills is a free agent. And so I think if they retain those guys, they can try to sign guys on minimum contracts and get lucky like the Lakers did last year. They were able to land a Carmelo who was decent. Malik Monk signed of it. I mean, that's a huge minimum contract, Malik Monk. So I think the Nets will mostly look the same, different on the edges, and they'll try to get lucky with minimum contracts and run it back.
So do you see them extending Irving?
Yeah.
On a long-term deal? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that?
That's not a popular thing to say. A lot of people, you'll hear Stephen A. Smith or Colin Cowherd, some of these guys saying, I would never give Kyrie a long-term contract. They don't have a choice. So Kyrie, if he left today, the Nets are over the salary cap, meaning if he left, they don't get any cap space now that he's gone. So they can't sign anyone to replace him. So all the Nets would be is the exact same roster minus Kyrie. And look, the bottom line is when he's healthy and available, Kyrie helps you win games. And they are under an obligation to make this team as competitive as it can possibly be while Kevin Durant is there. And he's under contract for 4 more years. And so it would be malpractice for them to let someone of the talent of Kyrie to leave without anyone to replace him with. You can't do it. Kyrie has all the leverage here. He can say to them, look, if you want to lowball me, if you want to give me a 1-year contract, I'm out of here. And they basically have to do whatever he says. So I think it's going to be a 4-year contract, not a 5-year. He's available for 5, but I think he would take the 4 because it would line up with KD's contract. So they came in together, they can leave together, and it would save the Nets $50 million on that final year. So that's my prediction, at least.
And the Ben Simmons, because I'm hearing a couple of rumors about maybe trading him to Utah for a Rudy Gobert or something like that. So
you're right. I heard that as well.
Scenarios.
I mean, hey, yeah. I think that would be a great move. But my thinking around Ben Simmons was always, why would anyone trade for him right now and give you decent value for Ben Simmons? So that's why I thought Ben Simmons is unmovable, is because you say this is the idea of Ben Simmons way up here, right? Well, how would you meet that idea in a trade with equal talent right now? You can't, because other teams aren't going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to pay this much for him and give you equal talent on the way out. I feel like if you trade Ben Simmons now, this is the literal low point of his value. I think at least if you're going to trade Ben, you have to at least wait until the trade deadline so that he can get a couple of months under his belt, look awesome again, and then you trade him, because then his value comes up. But this offseason, to me, he's going to stay, absolutely. Okay,
and do you think he's really injured? How do you say this? Is he really injured? This because of his court fight with the 76ers to get his money back? He doesn't want to play because of that. So what's really happening?
I mean, I don't know what's really happening. No one does other than Ben and maybe his agent, Rich Paul. But I just know that the very last report that we got was that the Nets need to support him more mentally, and that they think, the question was, well, how did you herniate a disc in your back when you never played basketball? And the answer might be, according to this latest report, that his mental issues trigger a problem in his back. So he doesn't hurt his back. He hurts his back because he has mental. I mean, look, again, I don't know anything about that. I'm not a doctor, but to me, that's like, wow, that's bad. Like that's a huge red flag. So I don't know. All I know is it's a really bad situation. But if you're a Sixers fan, you see all this and you're like laughing because you're like, whoa, that used to be us. It says Sixers and Ben. Now it says Nets and Ben Simmons. So it's like, if you're a Sixers fan, you're like, all right, well, look, I feel bad for you guys, but it's not our problem.
And how do you see the NBA next season with LeBron James making another run, the Nets team maybe having Ben Simmons, a couple of other stars who are coming back. Kawhi Leonard is coming back. These Bucks are still in place. So Warriors are running again. So who do you see as the one or two early favorites?
Yeah. I would say in the West, maybe our Western Conference Finals would be Clippers Warriors. I love that idea because of the star power combined with the depth, combined with the experience. And then in the East, I mean, it's kind of wide open, isn't it? I mean, the Celtics, here's the thing. We are having kind of a sea change in terms of balance of power in the NBA. And so for me to make a prediction like this, it's so tough because we're finding out so much every day about what's the future going to look like. Like just now in that last series with the Celtics, honestly, it looks like, hey, man, the Celtics may be the future of the East after all. But do we know that for sure? I would really like to see them against the Bucks again for another series before I start to make that prediction. So I really don't know, but I love the whole parity aspect and how things are so wide open for the first time since I don't even know, 2009, 10, 2008, somewhere around there, because we've had these dynasties, the LeBron dynasty in the East, the Warriors dynasty in the West, the Spurs dynasty before that, the Lakers dynasties. I love it right now. We're either at the beginning of a new dynasty and we don't know who it's going to be, Celtics, Bucks, whatever, or it's anyone's championship every single year. And so I just love the place that we're in.
Yeah, it's exciting. Cool. Let's shift now and talk about your channel, about your channel and career. So I know, and I heard your story about working on network channels, on sports all the time. So that was always your first option. I want to work around sports broadcasting, or was there any plan B, any other option available? So what's your background around that?
Yeah, I mean, just the short answer is that, when I graduated college, I really was getting into sports and sports media. And my two favorite sports broadcasters were Colin Cowherd on radio and a guy named John Ireland. And John had a radio show in Los Angeles where I lived. And then he also was the play-by-play guy of the Lakers. I knew that both of those guys started as local TV sports reporters, like at your local channel, And so I thought, okay, that's what I have to do. And I started that process, and I got a job at a local TV station doing sports, and then another one and another one and another one. And eventually I ended up at CBS Sports on a national platform. And I was there for 2 years. They did not renew my contract, which was just a heartbreaker at the time. But what it ended up doing was giving birth to this YouTube channel. And that's given me the freedom to work for myself, to make content that I really love making, and to not have to drive into an office 5 days a week. You know what I mean? So I'm grateful for the time I had in traditional media, but I'm also happy that it's turned into this.
Yes, and we are watching your channel as we speak, so it's on our screen. So, was it an easy choice and transition to make once the contract situation happened? Was that a no-brainer? Like, I'm gonna start my own channel, on YouTube, or you were still thinking about maybe I'll find a job in another?
I was applying for jobs when I started this channel, and I was lucky because when the pandemic happened, a lot of people were indoors on their computers watching stuff, and so I think that gave a boost to my channel, because a lot of people were watching YouTube at the time. And so pretty quickly, within a few months, it was clear that I was going to be able to make a full-time living doing this and stop looking for a new job. So that happened fairly quickly, and I'm very lucky for that.
Okay, cool. And how do you see the evolution of AM Hoops? AM Hoops, is it going to stay as it is? Do you have any other maybe plans, any other new ways or directions to explore this platform?
I'm always thinking about that. Can you do me a favor? Can you go to a channel called Cult Tennis? If anyone out there likes tennis, I really urge you to look at this channel. Now, just go to his actual channel, this guy, and then go to videos. So what this guy does is he makes these videos that are just fascinating stories about tennis. And I mean, some of these you just can't help but click on these videos. I mean, look at the Dubai one. Like, that thumbnail just catches your eye. You're like, what is that? And this guy, it's not just that he picks out these fascinating topics and makes a good thumbnail. He is so good at telling the story. He's so talented. His name is Andrew. And I really love that as an idea for the future of AM Hoops, is telling these kinds of stories. But at the same time, honestly, Carlos, I like giving opinions. I think it's fun. And so I think probably a mix of both. I've toyed with the idea of doing a separate channel just for stories like this that are not opinions, but just really fascinating stories of NBA history. But at the end of the day, I think what I'll do is probably mix those into my current channel and do both on the same channel. But I really look up to that guy's work. He does a really great job.
And thank you for the reference. I didn't know that channel. And
not a lot of people do. Not a lot of people do, but he makes great. If you saw, he only has 105,000 subscribers, but some of his videos are in the millions of views because they're so good. Yeah. And in my experience, Carlos, if you don't have very many subscribers, but your average view count is way up here, that means your content is awesome. You're winning with great content, not necessarily a big subscriber base. And so when I see a channel like that, I'm like, dude, I better pay attention to what that guy's doing.
No, cool. I'm going to check it out. Yeah. Have you ever wondered, or do you have any interest on the debate format? So many other, and especially networks, use
the networks do that. Have you seen that done successfully on YouTube?
No, not.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm down to throw in a video or two like that, but I feel like, I feel like what people value about YouTube is that it feels more personal, and that it feels more like you get really the personality of the creator. And I feel like those talking head shows where everyone's yelling at each other, it just feels kind of like a really old school way of doing things. And so I just feel like YouTube has a different kind of texture. It has a different personality in terms of what people go to it for. You know what I mean?
I understand. Yeah. It's a good point. I never thought about that because I only watch it on YouTube. So even the debate shows, I watch them on YouTube. So my experience is quite different because
that makes sense.
Stephen A's and Skip Bayless is, so I watch them on YouTube. So it's always a YouTube content from my side.
Right. I mean, look, if I had fun doing it and people really liked it, I would absolutely do it. I haven't even experimented with it. So, maybe that is a good idea to try.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see about that. No return to TV, right? That's not on your plans.
I would have to have like an amazing offer. I mean, right now it's like, if you think about my life before, I had to put on a full suit with a tie every day, drive into work, stay sometimes until 11 p.m. midnight every single night, and then drive home, take off the suit. Oh God. And get home late. Now it's like, I can wear this on camera because no one cares. And I can interact with my audience. There was no interaction with your audience when you're on TV. We just had a baby recently. I'm so involved in his life because I'm not driving into work 5 days a week. I mean, I can't imagine the offer that some. Oh, also when you work in traditional TV, they determine where you live. And so I wanted to move maybe back to Los Angeles where I went to school. Guess what? That would require some TV executive somewhere thinking I was better than the other 500 people who applied for that job. There would have to be a job opening for me to even be a part of the 500 people who apply. And then I would have to win that little reality show of landing the job. And the one judge is the TV exec. And then I would get to live where I want to live. With YouTube, you have ultimate freedom of your schedule, of where you live, of your life, of your money. On YouTube, theoretically, the ceiling is unlimited. On TV, the ceiling is capped. You sign a contract. That is how much you make for that long. There's pros and cons, but to me, it would take a ridiculous offer of some kind to be back in regular TV.
I respect that. And I am a believer on the power of internet and YouTube. So I think this is our space and where we can really grow and explore our own ideas and creativity and authenticity in a way. So I support that.
That too.
And I'm looking forward to keep. Yeah. And I'm always curious about the evolution of these platforms. I'm lucky to see almost starting as AM Hoops. So it's a fascinating journey also to follow up and see your next steps and your next moves. And it also inspires me as the founder of Freestyle Talkz platform to see where others are going and what others are doing and think about my own. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course, man. Yeah, it can be scary at times. That's the one thing, though, is that when you are in a traditional job, you don't have to worry about how many people watched that week because you're going to get your paycheck either way. In this line of work, though, you really have to watch how many people, because if people aren't watching, you're not going to get paid, which is way different. So it's scary, but if you can pull it off, it's much better.
Cool. Now I want to quickly shift into the historic side of NBA because I'm fascinated about the history of the game as well, and I know you are also because of your videos. You've done a couple of videos about what happened to the profiles of old school guys. So first, I want to ask you, and this is almost a cliche. Let's talk about the top 10 all-time players because in the beginning you were mentioning about Giannis Antetokounmpo being on the verge of maybe breaking through and kicking Shaq or Hakeem out of that top 10. So what's your top 10? It doesn't matter any order if you don't want to give us an order, but who's in your top 10?
So
and then I'll give you mine.
Awesome. I'm going to go. I'm still torn on the whole MJ LeBron thing. I know I'm supposed to have a firm opinion. Let's say LeBron, MJ, Kareem, Duncan fourth, Magic, Bill Russell, Larry Bird, Kobe Bryant, Shaq, and then Wilt. Top 10.
Okay, so we have the same guys on a different
order.
Oh,
really?
So,
same guy, just different order?
Yeah, so my order is MJ, LeBron, first, number 3, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, sorry. Yeah. Number 4, Magic. I have Wilt at 5th, actually.
Wow.
Bill Russell at 7th. Yeah. Shaq at 8th. I have Bird. I have Kobe, and I have Tim Duncan at 10. So Tim Duncan is way higher on your list than my list. Yeah, but same guys. I think that's interesting. I had a question about Oscar Robertson. Is he a top 10 or not? But I decided not to include him. And then I would maybe have Hakeem, Stephen Curry's coming next, KD. So that's range of players.
Yeah.
So from these actual players, it's the next 3 are maybe Steph, KD, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And on the 75 top list who recently was announced, a lot of discussion about snubs and who shouldn't be, who should be. Do you have any big snub from your side?
It was just Dwight Howard. I thought that the recency bias of what he's looked like the past few years clouded people's judgment. I think that people forget how great he was in his prime. And so I would have included Dwight.
Okay. Me too. And do you think about, in the historic perspective, any underrated players you really think this guy was truly awesome and people seem to forget about him? Because I feel that way about John Stockton. I think he's so underrated. As I see him as a great point guard, and when we have discussions about point guards, I never hear his name mentioned. Maybe in the top 5 all-time point guards, and I don't agree with that at all. So I would like to hear your opinion on John Stockton and maybe
who's your top 5 point guards of all time?
Okay, I would put Magic. I think that's an easy one. And then I would probably go with maybe Stephen Curry.
Okay.
As my second option. And then I would put John Stockton. And then I would put, it's between, now it's difficult, CP3, Isaiah Thomas. I think I would put Isaiah Thomas because he was a champion. And CP3 is not a champion. And then CP3 as number 5.
So it's interesting that you do the whole champion thing when Stockton never won it. And also, it's just interesting that, like, Chris Paul not only controls the game with his mind and obviously his passing, but also he's such a threat to score if he needs to be. He can be so many different things. And just the leadership, the way that he's altered franchises in Phoenix, also in Oklahoma City. It's just interesting why you would value John Stockton over that skill set.
Okay, because I think about also John Stockton is lead in assists and steals, right? So I think he was a great offensive player, not scoring, but running an offense. Him and Karl Malone was an amazing duo. He never won, I know that. And I also feel that in the defensive end, he was also very good. And I would put him ahead of CP3 on that, in that way. A defensive player.
Okay. I mean, look, I'm not going to argue with you too much about it. I would personally have CP3. Geez, I would have to look at it more. But there's just something that jumps out to me about that. But again, I'm not going to be too upset about it. So.
Nah, no, and do you have any underrated player who you really love and it's not usually mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really talk about Ralph Sampson enough. His career was shortened by injuries. He was the #1 overall pick for the Rockets, I think, 1983. And he was automatically one of the best players in the league. Again, injuries kind of cut him down, but people really don't mention him that much. I wish people talked about Bill Walton more. I wish that people talked about Dominique Wilkins more. Dominique was the most athletic player in the game when he was with the Hawks. And later in his career with the Hawks, he developed into more of a three-point shooter, which people totally forget. People only talk about Dominique like all he was a great slasher and a great dunker. But he was a lot more than that later in his career. That's why they built a statue of him outside of the Hawks arena there. But, you know, I think a lot of the guys from back in the day get their just due. You know, I was listening to JJ Redick the other day talk about who was he? He was talking about some old school player like a Bill Russell. Yeah, I think it was Bill Russell. And he was saying, look, yes, he may have won 8 championships, but he did it, or is it 9? But he did it in a, or was it 11? What is wrong with me? He won 11 championships, but the fact is that there were only 8 teams back then in the NBA. You only had to win 2 playoff series, and he was playing against a bunch of plumbers and firemen, which I think, you know, is all true objectively, but I just don't like when people disrespect the guys who the whole game was built on. You know, the league, the popularity of it was so low that I think, you know, like the Globetrotters were more popular back then. And the fact that these guys can now make $200 million contracts, you know, the skill level is so high because you built on the skill level prior. And so, you know, some people based on that JJ Redick argument wouldn't have Bill Russell in their top 10 all time. I think the reason you and I do is because we realize that it is his skill and his accomplishments relative to the era he played in. Some people disrespect the era that they played in, and they will only say, well, I'm judging him if he played today in today's NBA. I think that's just not fair at all, because without them doing all that work, then the generation after them wouldn't have that to build on, and so on and so forth. And then we have the league today. So I do not knock guys for playing in a lesser era, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have the higher eras at all. So I think that's kind of, you know, where I stand on the really old school players.
Yes, and that's a power of legacy, right? So powerful leagues and big leagues as NBA get better because of that history and legacy and all that past accumulated. So it's definitely a cornerstone of what's happening right now. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And talking about money, the money that these guys are making right now, and do you feel that the situations like Kyrie Irving, like Ben Simmons, John Wall is not playing, will this have an impact on the next collective bargaining agreements? I think owners are looking at this, and some people are already discussing this, and Stephen A. Smith is always bringing up, like, owners are not happy and they will push back. So how do you see the impact of this type of players sitting down or refusing to play, or faking injuries maybe, will have an impact in the close future?
So, I can't predict the future, but in 2011 and in 1999, we had lockouts. And so, the owners negotiated with the players union, and the two sides couldn't come to an agreement on basketball related income back then. And so they were trying to figure out, based on the TV deals, the tickets we sell, what percentage of that pie do you guys get? What percentage do the owners get? And, it used to be 52-48, and then 51-49. I believe now it's just 50-50. And the players fought tooth and nail for that. I mean, they did not want to do that. And so the owners and the players were like, all right, well, if we can't come to an agreement, we're not going to play games. And so we didn't play games up until Christmas for both seasons. And so while I can't tell what's going to happen, I do definitely predict a lockout for sure in 2023, I believe it is. So I think that the season's not going to start in October, and we'll see. I mean, the only American sport that is literally locked out an entire year was baseball in 1994. They just didn't even have a World Series, and it really hurt the sport a lot. It set the sport back for years. And so I just hope that this isn't such a point of contention that they can't come to an agreement. But I don't think the agreement is going to be quick. I think we'll miss some games for sure.
Let's watch that, and let's hope everything is sorted out, because as fans, I think we all want to watch games and analyze games and have fun. So, Casey, I won't take much more of your time. I really want to thank you for being available and accepting our invitation again. I'm also inviting our audience to go out and check AM Hoops on YouTube and on Instagram and Twitter. So Casey is doing an amazing work, and it's definitely worth subscribing, watching videos. He brings out videos every week, 2 or 3 videos per week. So it's an amazing content, and he has a lot of great ideas and inspiring vision for analyzing basketball. So I definitely leave a recommendation here. Go out and check AM Hoops. And Casey, really a huge thank you. It was super fun, and I'm excited to watch these games and see who comes as a winner this season. And let's stay in touch.
Will do, Carlos. Thanks for the opportunity, man. I agree. The playoffs are fun because there's no clear-cut winner, like when KD was on the Warriors. I know that was fun for Warriors fans, but I think this is more fun for the rest of us.
Yeah, it is. So thank you, and keep up your amazing work, and we'll keep watching your channel and promoting it on our platforms as well.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Carlos. Appreciate it.
Thank you. See you soon. So that was it. That was our guest for this afternoon of Saturday in Mozambique, Casey Keirnan. So we were discussing the NBA season, NBA playoffs. So really excited to have him as a part of Freestyle Talkz. Go ahead and check his channel, AM Hoops, and subscribe. And if you want to see any guests, if you have any recommendations, you can reach out, let us know who you want to see next. Who do you want us to interview? It can be both. It can be in Portuguese, in English, in Spanish. So be free and creative, and let us know who would you like to see on Freestyle Talkz, and we'll make the best to make it possible. So we will be back as soon as we have any more exciting news for you. And for now, it's just to tell you thank you, stay safe, and have fun watching NBA. And go out and check the other interviews we have available on Freestyle Talkz, and you'll definitely find exciting content to entertain you. Thank you. See you soon.